Hey everyone, my name is Paul from Fried Kernel and this is Fried Kernel Behind the Scenes. This is a development series for my game called Project Run. It's not the final name, but that's what I call it right now. It's a game where you run a 100-meter sprint on your phone. If that sounds like anything you like, please hit subscribe and you can follow me along for the ride. In this week's video we're going over the progression I'm adding to the game to make it more interesting. Because running alone on your phone isn't that interesting, so I wanted to add some things you can unlock throughout the game. I'm trying something new with this. I'm trying different technique than I used before, so that's pretty interesting. And I already see that this method has great potential. So let's jump to Unity and I'll show you what I've done so far. Okay, so we're in the main menu right now of my game, and I added this selection screen for different feet. So you can scroll sideways to select the foot you want. It isn't really aligned properly, so this should be in the middle, but doesn't really matter right now. So yeah, I wanted to have these kinds of feet to have some sort of progression in the game. So you can unlock new feet. That way you have something to work towards. So if you see your favorite kind of shoe or foot in this list, you can work towards obtaining that one. This alone isn't that interesting because these are just 3 images on a horizontal scrolling window thingy. But what makes it interesting is that I generate these and I automatically populate this horizontal content group. So how I do that is I'm using Scriptable Objects, which, if you don't know what they are, really look into them. I will leave some links in the description down below to 2 talks describing Scriptable Objects, how you can use them in 2 different ways. It's a little weird at first to get your hand around, but it's really amazing and you should really use them. This is the shoe selector thingy, so that's a invisible scroll rect in which is a viewport which does nothing really out of the ordinary. But in that is the horizontal scrolling group. It's a component in which the children of this object will be laid out horizontally automatically, so you don't have to put them in there by yourself. And you can also add padding to it, so I've added a padding to 100 to the left and it should also be at the right. That's how I can control where the first item will be, because the scroll rect is the complete width of the window, but because of the padding the item will be in the middle. I think if I make it 110 it probably will be in the middle or close. Yeah, it's almost in the middle, maybe 115, but I'm not going to I think this isn't the perfect way to do it, so I'm going to look into how to do it more. You can also do padding for the top and the bottom, and spacing. Spacing is the room between each item. Then I have the shoe selector script, which handles the list of feet you see on the screen. So this is really the UI part of it. So the scriptable object is only a data list. This is where I store everything I have in my game. But this script uses that list to populate the UI stuff for it. Because not only does the UI use these images, but also the actual shadows of the feet will also use these images. So they both use the same list, which makes it way better. And as you can see, the foot list is empty now, but if I press play, it should populate automatically. Bam. Now I have 3 shoe objects, which I just instantiate at start. So I instantiate an empty prefab with an image and a text Mesh Pro text, which I then added to the image I changed to the image from the list, and the Text Mesh Pro text I added to the name of the object in the list. And it already knows if it's selected or unlocked. It's just the exact same as the list is. So it's pretty nice. I'm going to draw something out because it makes way more sense like that. Okay, so why Scriptable Objects are this awesome is because you disconnect the data from the script. So, okay, let's say you have a player script and a game manager. You can ignore this stuff. So if the player and a game manager, and let's say the player has health and maybe XP or something. I say I want the game manager to have something happen when the player health is 0. So we need to have a reference to the player in your game manager. And let's say a UI manager. You also need a reference of the player, just to access these variables. And for everything you make that is dependent on one of these two things, you need a reference to the player. This isn't really that bad, but a nice way to break those up is to use scriptable objects. So, okay, let's say now we have a player and a game manager. So you can make a scriptable object which is only an int, for example, or a float, and that is the health or the XP. Now, this is a separate object. So it's not connected to the player, it's not connected to the game manager, it's just floating in thin air. And the player can still write to this variable and also obtain stuff from it if it wants to. And the same goes for this. The game manager can also write to it or obtain stuff from it, and same for XP and every other script after that can also do the same. It's just like a regular reference, but then it's a loose set of data. This makes testing way more easy, because there will be a whole talk in the description down below explaining it way better than I do. But what he said is, if you have a really big project and you need to test one set of UI, you can just put in the UI element and one of these scriptable objects, and then you can test it immediately instead of also have the player, because the player is having these kinds of data, and also have the game manager because something else. It just makes your life way easier. And the added bonus of this, you can edit these while running the game during runtime, and when you stop playing the game, the value does not reset to 0 automatically. When you make a build of the game, then it will reset to 0, but in the editor it does not. So you can really easily test stuff with editing numbers and stuff. It's amazing. So this will be it for this week's video. If you like this video, please click like down below, and if you like these kinds of videos, please subscribe. You can also hit the notification bell to get updated when I upload a new video. Also, I saw in my analytics that more than 90% are people who are not subscribed on this channel. So if you watch all the way through this video, click subscribe, and I know you will like it. And I will see you all next week. Bye.